Welcome to our technical report writing tutorial. My name is Jonathan Scopes. For the course, you'll need to come and ask questions. You'll need to bring and send samples of work that you've done or that has come to you, examples of emails, letters and reports, so that we can review them and discuss them together. But for this tutorial, I'll provide the examples. What we're planning to do is to make ourselves think about what does the audience, the people who are going to read what I'm going to write, what do they need to know? So I need to think, what do they need to know? Then I have to put the information in a way that's easy for them to take hold of that information. It's put in a nice structured way so they can find what they want quickly without having to read pages and pages and pages of text. They want to find it easily and to understand the information when they get it. So we can use tables and lists and graphs, and we'll look at some examples of those. And then we need to make it look good for ourselves. So we need to edit it. We need to proofread. We need to use the grammar checker on our computer or laptop to look for spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes. And we all make those, and the machine will pick up quite a lot of them. And then the other thing, to do a good job, you need enough time. Now, many of us from the safety world will know about this PlanDoCheckAct, and then the circle in the middle there, I've got PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. And with writing something, it's very similar. So first we need to plan it. The planning means thinking about what we want to say and who we're going to say it to, how we're going to say it. Okay? So plan. Then the do part is the writing. We actually have to write it. For me, I write with a keyboard. It's much quicker for me to use a keyboard than to write by hand. Then we look at it, we assess what we've written and ask ourselves the question, is this easy to read? Will the people who I'm sending this to understand it? And then I will, based on that assessment, I will make some decisions. I will change it a bit. So I'll change my plan a bit, I'll revise. In the PlanDoCheckAct, it's the act section. I revise and think about what I've got and go through the cycle again. And then I should have at the end of that a good product, one that will communicate well and quickly as intended. So the first thing to note is write in plain language. We need to think who is going to read this. For many of us, we're writing in a second language, and the people who read it are reading it in English, which is a second language. So think about that fact. In my second paragraph, I say, think clear, concise communications. Clear, concise is short, and communicate. It's got to work for them to understand it. And aimed at the audience's level of knowledge, vernacular, and ability. I've highlighted that word vernacular. You may not know what vernacular means. It's not a good word for me to have used on this course. Vernacular is a word I would use with native English speakers. It means people who understand the language as a first language. So we shouldn't use that word vernacular. So when we review it, we'll take it out. So we need to have vocabulary and words that people understand. And if I fail to communicate, then my piece of writing is worthless. They haven't understood it. And then my audience are usually busy people. So we need to keep it short. If I can communicate quickly with few words, that's better, as long as that's communicated well. So first point, write in plain language. Next one is explain what you're doing before you set to. So say I'm going to give an example, then explain what's important. Then you give the example, and then you explain why it's important. So the reader knows why he needs to read all of it, and he doesn't struggle thinking, why is he telling me this? Why is he given this, which is the example? You need to say, this is an example to illustrate what I want to say. If the reader gets confused, you failed to communicate. So, second point, keep things, explain things before you present them. Okay. So here's an example. Now, what we're going to do here is put the key information in the main clause. So example number 1. Despite winning the game, Oman made several errors in the first half. Despite winning the game, it's not being very positive, is it? And it's saying Oman made lots of errors. So the focus is really on Oman making errors. Second example of the same news. Despite making several errors in the first half, Oman won the game. That's more positive, but again they've put the despite making several errors at the beginning. So the first message is Oman made several errors. Third example, same information. Oman won the game. Hooray! Everybody understands that, despite making several errors in the first half. So what do we know? Oman won the game, yes. And they didn't have such a good first half, but they won the game. So we've communicated well. Avoid the first person. The first person is words like I or we. So we don't say I this, or we this. No, we say it was done. This is just a style of writing that is usually used for reports. So the main point is to communicate to our audience. The writing needs to be formal. We'll say the report was written, the test was done. We don't say I wrote the report. We don't say we did the test. We say the report was written, the test was done. But the key thing is communication. Reduce ambiguous terms. Ambiguous means things that are not clear. So have few things that are not clear. Make it clear. So if we use the phrase, it was a bit of a long time, it was quite a while, it was fairly expensive, what does that mean? Provide numbers. So don't say it was fairly expensive, say it was 3 riyals. And say, we think 3 riyals is expensive for that. Or don't say it was a fairly long time, say it was 5 minutes. 5 minutes is clear, it's precise. So we can provide descriptive words or pictures or graphics to communicate, and I'll show you some examples shortly. So to reduce ambiguous terms, here's some instructions on how to cook popcorn. Do you know what popcorn is? It's seeds from a plant that you heat, and because of the heat, they open up, cooked. And you may have bought popcorn at the cinema. So now, we want to write some instructions that are easy to understand for somebody cooking popcorn. So, start with the fact that it's going to be in a microwave. So microwaves are different. So we say microwaves deliver different amounts of power. That's just a statement at the beginning, so that we know that my microwave may be different to your microwave, may be different to her microwave. So we've established that there are microwaves to be used, and there are different amounts of power in each microwave, possibly. So then we make it clear. We say the cooking time will vary depending on the type of your microwave, or your type of microwave. So your microwave may take some time, mine may take a bit longer, hers may take longer still. And we've established that. Then we give a clear instruction. Try cooking for about 5 minutes. How long? 5 minutes. Okay? Not for a short while, but precisely 5 minutes. But listen for the pops. If you pops stop for 2 seconds, switch off, because your popcorn is ready. So we've been clear, it's about 5 minutes. You're going to have to stand there for 5 minutes while you listen to the pops. But when the pops stop for about 2 seconds, you have 2 seconds of silence, you switch off because it's ready. And if you don't switch off, if you carry on cooking, the popcorn will burn. We don't want burned popcorn, so we've switched it off. So those are clear instructions, and we've said the time's about 5 minutes, and we've given a warning that says 2 seconds, silence, no pops, switch it off. Reduce dangling modifiers. What's a dangling modifier? Well, the writers may confuse readers if they have a phrase that is clear in the writer's mind but is not clear in the reader's mind. So the example of of a dangling modifier is, at times like these result without the writer's knowledge. Or at times these result without the writer's knowledge. Now, when the writer wrote these, he was very clear, or she was very clear in her mind what these were. But the reader doesn't know. So we need to write it again. Better communication is, at times, a dangling modifier results without the writer's knowledge. So now we know that we're talking about a dangling modifier. It's a bit of information that's not clear enough. And we can make it clear by using descriptive verbs. Descriptive means describing, verbs means action words, like lifting or pushing. And proper nouns. Nouns are things like desks or chairs. And these help communication. Don't use slang. So, if I work in a particular industry, there may be some words that are clear to me, but not clear to you. So I'll use a piece of slang. In English, I can say to an English person, it's raining cats and dogs. There are no cats and there are no dogs. It just means, it's a phrase, it's a slang phrase that means it's raining very heavily. So I should not use slang because it's not clear. Imagine it getting translated. It's not clear. If you want to say it's raining heavily, say it was raining heavily. Lots of rain was coming down. Write in plain English. It's the same tip as tip number 1. So we can avoid jargon. I'll read the first example and then a rewrite example 2. So the first example is, for the first year, the links with the SDPC and the HAC were not connected, and all the required OCS and input data were artificially loaded. Thus, Catch-22 and Merwin were not available. Now, I don't know about you, but that made no sense to me at all. But we could write it without the jargon. Now let's read it again. Example 2. Because some of the links in the computer system were not connected in the first year, we could not run all the software codes. I can understand that. I could then, if I really wanted to, say, where it says we could not run all the software codes, full stop, and then we say, for example, Catch-22 and Merwin's software could not be run. But the point is, the message is clear. We didn't have all the connections, so we couldn't run all the software codes. Use your computer. Use your computer, so think, what font size do you want? I hope you can read the font on this slide, and that you like the font. Decide how big the font is going to be. Use the spelling and grammar check. It's there to help you. It will take out a lot of your errors and catch a lot of them. If the word is underlined, there's something wrong with it, almost certainly. It might be the spelling, it might be a grammar thing. But look at the computer and see what it's suggesting. If you agree with it, click agree and it will make the change. But please, please, please use the spelling and grammar checker. Then save the file with a suitable file name. The system that I've been taught is put the date first. So my files all start with 20 for the year 2020. Then I'm recording this in April, so it's 20 for 2020, and it's 04 for April. April's the 4th month. So my files this month start with 2004, and then I put the day. So today is the 27th. So a file I write today will say 2020, 04, April, 27, that's today. And then I put a description. In this case I've put technical writing, revision 1. So I know that this is revision 1 of this presentation. And also, anybody else looking on my computer or on our shared drive will know the date and the subject and the revision of the article. It will help them choose which one to use. So because I've put the date, when I search for the documents, they will all come up in date order. So I go to the latest date, and that's the latest document. There's no doubt I've got the right one. include the revision number, so we know it's revision 1, revision 6, revision whatever number. Make it clear to find the document. It's part of your communication. Right, a letter. Sometimes we have to write a letter so that the letter records the fact that we did the inspection and we're sending the inspection report from our company to another company, or from me to my manager. And we need to record this so that we know that it's been done, and if there's a court case, or if something happens, we can show we communicated this to those people. So if the report says we need some actions, then we might put in the letter some actions need to be done. So let's look at a letter. Well, the letter needs to say who's the letter coming from. In my case, it would be coming from Jonathan Scopes. I work for Samara United. Who did the inspection? Well, let's say I did the inspection, so we'd say Jonathan did the inspection and give my contact details, like my phone number. And the inspection would have a date and a reference number. I did this inspection at that factory on that date. Then I need to give the reference number to the person I'm sending the letter. So it needs to have a reference that says, you gave me this instruction, let's say it's purchase order number 123. So then I put in my letter, purchase order 123. So you know, as the person receiving the letter, it's about those inspections at that factory. We write the date, so we know it's inspection done on the 27th of April, not the one done last week on the 20th of April. Then we put the heading, the subject line, and this is important. We need to make it clear and precise what we're talking about in this letter. So if you're sorting through a pile of letters, you can quickly see, this is the one about the inspection, I'll read that letter. And then it needs to give the address of where we did the inspection. It was at factory number 23 in Rosail, for example. Okay, now the contents. We give the name of the property owner. Let's say it was, I'm inventing a name here, Ali Industries. The date of the next inspection, it will be, let's say it's the 3rd of May. Any reference, we refer to, let's say, Oman Safety Law Ministerial Decision 286/2008. And then we list what the violations are, or the things that need to be changed, or areas for improvement. Not a long paragraph, but a list. We think you need to do this, and this, and this. And then the person who is reading it can see that there's 3 things, and when he has checked and had them done, he can tick them off nice and easily and see that he's completed the work. So the information was presented to him in a nice, easy way for him to read and to use and to understand. Opening and closing paragraphs. So the opening paragraph will say something, this is about, and the closing paragraph will say, if you've got any questions, talk to me. So the letter will open with a thing that says, with reference to your recent inspection, or our recent inspection, on this date, here's our recommendations. And then it will say, if you want to talk about it, please contact us. Here's a phone number. And that's easily, the information is easily understood, and it's useful because he knows what we're talking about, and if he doesn't understand something, he knows exactly where to get the information to contact us, or maybe to email us and find out the right information. Using words and sentences. A letter should be neat. It should look tidy. It should be legible. If it's typed, obviously you can read it, but if it's handwritten, you must have writing that people can read. If you can generate it on a computer, you can check it and edit it easily. Keep the language simple. Avoid things that might be misunderstood. I'm trying to think of a joke. If somebody is writing a reference for a person, and they say, if you can get Jonathan to work for you, you'll be very lucky, that's misleading. It might mean Jonathan's a great worker, and if you can get him to work for you, you're lucky. Or it might mean Jonathan is a bad worker, and if he does any work at all, you'll be lucky. It's misleading. So that was intended as a joke, but that's my point. Don't have misleading things. Make it absolutely clear. Jonathan is a great worker, I recommend him. Or Jonathan is a bad worker, I don't recommend him. Be clear and precise. Complete your sentences. So your sentence needs to have an action word and a thing, a noun, and to say something. But a sentence that starts, you must lift the switch. No. Lift the switch on this device to turn it off, for example. Make proper use of words. Use your spell checker and it will tell you where you might have gone wrong. Right, let's look at this. This chart is a picture of of favourite pizza toppings. So you can look at this chart and say, right, popcorn is the favourite. It's got the biggest part and it's clear and it speaks clearly. And then cheese is second, sausage is third, and everything else is about a quarter of the toppings. Well, pepperoni is number one. This graph is very simple. The light colour is the number of cases prosecuted, and the dark colour is the cases resulting in conviction. Now look, the number of cases and the number of prosecutions are more or less the same number all the way across for each year. So this means that in this year, over the last several years, in this case it's the Health and Safety Executive in the UK, nearly all of their cases resulted in a conviction. So what does that say to us? It means that if the HSE threaten you with a court case, you are very likely to lose. And because of this data, most companies in the UK, if the HSE threaten to prosecute, just plead guilty and accept it. It saves a lot of time and money. But the chart has made it clear. And then here's a line graph. In this case it's mesothelioma, which is a cancer, skin cancer. And it's looking at the number of cases, and you can see it's rising, and then it's getting to the top and it's plateauing, and there's a projection that in the future the number will go down because the government has a campaign to inform people and educate people about the risks of skin cancer, usually from sunlight, and taking precautions. And as a result, that rise has been flattened, and that's very topical for us these days as well with coronavirus. So thank you for listening, and you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn and Facebook. Thank you.